Oh, yes, so everyone. Yeah.
I think that's what it said. Maybe it's just secretary.
And the other one is, Danby.
Hey, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first thing is the agenda review. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda at this time? Okay. All right, seeing none. I need a motion to, someone to make a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting.
I can make a motion to accept the minutes from November.
Let's skip the meeting. Go ahead. All right.
Did you guys already do privilege of the floor? Did I miss that?
No, I accidentally skipped it. We'll do it right after this. We might as well finish this.
Sure.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah. So, all in favor? Everybody was there last time?
I can call, but I didn't get the second. I'm sorry.
No, you, I don't know. You
Are
need
we
a
able-
quorum, so
But he wasn't
if you,
here.
I can defer to you guys, if you're all satisfied with the minutes. Yeah, that's the board member.
Okay, all right.
I'm hearing Judy and not much of anybody, Jody, and not much of anybody else.
Make sure, Scott, make sure to talk into your mic and turn your mic on.
We got another.
And Cindy is remote, so she'll be doing the roll call remotely.
Okay, all right. So the minutes are approved. Going back to privilege of the floor. So you have 3 minutes if you want to do privilege of the floor. You can also wait and do it in the public hearing, and then it will be in the minutes.
And I just want to be sure, Cindy, did you catch the motion and second on the?
No,
minutes?
no, I didn't get who the second was. Did somebody second it?
The new chief.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So back to privilege of the floor. No hands and no one out here. All right. Okay, moving right along. Leslie, do you have something from the town board?
Hello. Is it working? Hello? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's working. Anyway,
Yeah.
just one thing I wanted to bring up. In the next couple of months, the town board's going to be deciding how to spend the ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan Act funds, which I think was about 300,000, right, Joel? We used
Yes.
some of it for some IT services, but that still leaves a lot of money the town can spend, and we have to decide what to spend it on. There's some guidelines the state came out with, or the federal government came out with, but it is sort of flexible. But on December 5th, we had an extensive conversation at the town board meeting. So the notes should be in that meeting. My notes are too crappy to copy off. But I encourage everybody to find that list and either add to it, come up with other ideas. But we need to decide how to spend that in the next couple of months. So it'd be nice to have your feedback.
Leslie, are there a couple things that you guys have already talked about that you're
Oh.
considering? I mean,
I mean, one of the flexible categories would be health. So it could be, you know, recreation, it could be parks, we can use it for, IT upgrade stuff, to make things easier for residents to get information, things like that. Codifying the laws, I know some people are interested in. So there's always the, internet, for broadband. That's on the list also, so, but the list is pretty extensive, and a lot of the things on the list are things we maybe could get funded. ADA stuff, we may be able to get funds from somewhere else, so it's a pretty
Would,
long list.
developing, I don't know if it's really trails, but like an area, say on Gunderman Road and across here or something like that.
Yes.
So that people could walk without
Yep.
getting hit by cars. and
Yep.
that.
Yep, I mean, one of the things I know is on the list is a crosswalk between here and the bus. Because the bus will drop people off over here and they've got to get, you know, coming out. But, so there's, yeah, any kind of health stuff is definitely in there. But, yeah.
All right, thanks. Okay, so the next thing is the first development review, which is the Danby Food and Drink. We have a couple updates from, or have we, I think we sent some stuff out, if we got the final proposal this time.
Right, so since the board last met, two area variances were granted. One to allow, that the existing building just to meet the setbacks. So that was kind of one of those little gotchas, in there just to make it all whole. And then the other, which was a little bit more significant, but it was to allow the small parking area, for 5 spaces in front of the building. So you can see this updated site plan here that would allow that. So those were granted, and that's the only other thing. Just today, Karthik, who would be operating the market, did submit, he asked about outdoor seating. You know, if a permit was required, and it's not, it's just, but I asked, you know, I suggested it might be nice, since the planning board is reviewing it tonight, maybe just put something together. So, what he prepared, this is looking, you can sort of tell this is the road here, and the outdoor seating would just go back behind the building, like this, just to get an idea. But, you know, there's nothing really in the code about, you know, it doesn't need to be, you know, located in any direction. This is kind of one of those things that's encouraged with this type of use. So it's just more of just a nice thing just to see. And if anybody has questions about it, you can see it. Or anything else about the site plan. I haven't pulled up, but I could, and certainly, you know, some of the other landscaping images that were provided and landscaping plan for the use, but I'll just leave it open to the board if they have questions. And just, before I finish my little spiel, that required for the site plan approval is to open a public hearing. Yeah.
I think the only thing in reviewing the minutes from last time, remember, was the signage. I don't know if we were addressing that tonight or not, because it wasn't on the updated, but that was the only other thing.
Right, so, if either Carter or Olivia have ideas for the signage, you want to just talk about that? Otherwise, they would just be approved through just my office. Yep. And then in terms of having a smaller freestanding sign out there, as you know, those aren't allowed currently by the zoning code, but that is something that I'm proposing to the town board to add in for the Hamlet district, something kind of small and you know, really sort of Hamlet scale, just to lean on that style of freestanding sign. Ideally prohibiting sort of boxy signs, if you can think about just sort of box kind of lit, often used with like very bigger franchise type developments. There are definitions for them, and I'll probably add them in there or suggest that they're, you know, prohibited. really just to encourage more, just kind of just our artistic signs, or just signs that have a little bit more flavor to them. But do you all have any ideas for signage? Or I know that like lighting too is also brought up, and you know, really there's just the dark sky initiative, but just curious if you have anything else to add.
I mean, yeah, we've definitely talked about that.
Everyone just around me. All right, I was just saying that we've definitely talked about signage, tentatively, and you know, Olivia and Crystal and I are still working through some of this, but I did go ahead and measure the Town of Danby sign at Miller Road right there on the, what is that, the west side of the street, and that's about 3 by 5 feet for context. And that, as I drive by it, it seems pretty reasonable, and so that's kind of what I was, you know, thinking about as the upper boundary of market sign. And we were looking,
Kind of small.
that sign does, at 40 miles an hour.
How tall is it? You know?
I don't remember the distance of you mean from the base to the ground? Oh, yeah, 3 or 4.
Okay. Because I was gonna suggest 20 square feet by 8 feet tall. But
Yeah.
I mean, you know, certainly that's, you know, that needs to be.
The Town of Danby sign would, I think, fall in less than that, yeah. And as far as location, kind of in this diagram here, my ideal spot, and I don't think that Olivia and I have dove into this to make sure that everyone's in agreement, and we may well be, would be kind of at the very top of the 43-foot measurement, the semicircle there, at the very top of that arrow, perpendicular to the road, you know, so people see it driving by, lit. And then I've talked to our the builder Weston, and he's wiring that into the building so we can turn the light off at close. And then, of course, you know, sign and lighting on the building itself. And that would be, and I don't think there's any, as far as I know, any concerns or any more plans on that.
Yeah, the only thing is just that all new lighting, exterior lighting has to just be dark sky compliant, so,
Downward facing.
yeah.
Maybe Ted knows how large the Danby sign is, the community board. Maybe he knows.
Oh, but I couldn't have the welcome.
Yeah, I mean, it says Town of Danby, right?
Also the community sign right there, and I'm wondering what that measures, just out of curiosity.
Okay. So does anybody have questions about any of that, or? No?
I
Anyone
mean, I
on
guess
the-
we'll like not formally include that as our decision since it's not in the zoning right now, but as it gets amended, it would fall under that.
Right, you mean the freestanding sign?
Yeah,
That's it,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It wouldn't be anything part, and really the signage itself, you know, is not really something that, you know, I think often people might include those in their applications for site plan review, but a lot of that can just be handled through just administratively.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we notice that the signs are not meeting the code, I would just go chat with the property owner and just say, you gotta be. It's not about a site plan approval to have those signs, it's just about what you're allowed.
Yeah.
Greg said something that I would need to ask permission for with Karthik as operator of the business.
Well, really, you know, there's no permit required for the signs. You just need to, all it is you just need to meet the specifications of what the sign size allows. So I think I might have copied and pasted those directly to Karthik at one point. I can just put those to you again and just say, here's what, you know, here's what you're allowed. You know, for instance, like an awning sign is 2 by 2, or, you know, 4 square foot sign, and a wall sign is, you know, a certain size. So as long as you're just meeting that, some municipalities require a separate sign permit, where you have to fill out a form, show sign renderings, and you'll get that approved. Danby is a little bit more, just, as long as you're just following what's in the code, you should be okay. So, I can provide those dimensions to you again, just make sure. Right, right.
No more meetings.
All right, any other comments? No, you see everyone who's on here?
Do we need to open the public hearing?
Yeah, I know. Okay, all right, so we should open the public hearing. We need the time for that, for the person that's doing the notes, right?
Sure, oh, looks like, Ted has a question.
Oh, okay,
Sure, Ted.
no, that's fine. Ted,
You are muted.
you're
Yes,
muted.
not a question. First one, Greg, you're more or less coming through. The others, please try to keep the microphone within about 2 or 3 inches of your mouth. Otherwise, what you come through is kind of garbled. I've said, okay, as to the hearing itself, I've said before, I think it's a great idea that Kartik wants to, provide us with a fad, a food and drink place. I'm perfectly good with this. I do wonder whether you have had any comment or reached out to the immediate neighbor to the south to see how they feel about it. If only to make sure that they don't afterwards come back and say, what? I didn't hear about this. And as to Greg's suggestion about 20-foot sign versus 20 square foot sign versus a 10 square foot sign, personally, I like minimal sized signs, but you have to bear in mind that even at 30 miles an hour, the signs on the road they appear much smaller than you might think. A 20 square foot 4x5 is not an unreasonable size. It not really that big. So I would suggest, yeah, Greg, go ahead, try to get that changed. It's not unreasonable. So thanks. And I hope, Kartik, I hope it works.
Thanks, Ted.
And just a note about the notification. So yeah, notification was sent to property owners within 500 feet of the property boundary. So I'm sure that you received one.
No,
I
mean.
Excuse me, I'm sure it was sent, but even so, reaching out personally to them would be a good thing, if not for the town, then for Kartik to talk to them. And the goodwill to be had from that is probably worth the trouble.
Ted, on the south side are my tenants at 1849 Danby Road, and they have been aware of this project for over a year, and I keep them regularly updated, as I do the tenants on the north side as well. They're aware of some of the concerns I have on their behalf, and I think I've expressed here every time I have been at this meeting that I have concerns about the tenants. I'm keeping their comfort, whether it's lighting, noise, traffic, people coming onto the other parts of the property. We had a discussion about this today, actually, Karthik, Crystal and I. So that's, uppermost in my mind as we move forward, and we'll just have to kind of take it day by day.
Yep, thanks, Livia.
One last little comment, Ted. Thank you for that, by the way. It is actually, my name is actually pronounced with a TH. So I know it's not written like that, hence one of them. No, you're good. I don't expect people to know that until they know it. So there it is.
So we shouldn't have started the public hearing if we still have discussion, is that correct? So we would start it now?
Well, I think it probably doesn't matter. I mean, I think public hearing, you would have those.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right. So are there other things that people want to bring up in the public hearing? Either on the screen or in person?
Oh, Greg, could you take down the share so we can see things? Thank you.
hands on there? And no one here? Okay.
Oh, it looks like Joel.
Oh, Joel. Joel, you need to unmute.
Yeah, I just, there we go. I'm trying to turn it, there's a video on too. Yeah, just I didn't want to let the opportunity pass to say how happy I am to see this development happen, and how impressed I am with both the board's review and the thoughtfulness that went into the planning. All of these things look like a very positive impact on the central location in Danby, and I hope it succeeds.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. So, we should close the public hearing if there's no other comments. And, we have to consider the final site plan approval.
I can pull up that, so we're having some printer issues, but I can share this, I mean, you can read from this decision document, so remember last time that what I'll do is I can, I guess I'll just share it for everyone, why not, but this is what, kind of, the decision document just to help the board kind of go along. So.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Should be site plan approval.
Yeah, I can, well,
I
could,
got-
but
Can you just tell me who that second was? I got Kelly, but I couldn't get the second one.
yeah, we'll fill it in.
Colleen?
Oh, it's got a date on it, though. I can't do it, but anyway. Make some notes, so I can do it. Okay. So, if a motion was made and seconded, we need to move on to approving the plan.
Does anybody have any conditions?
Yeah, so take a look at it again.
I don't have any conditions.
Okay. Then fill all that in. No conditions, so then we just need to vote. So,
Cowan,
Yeah.
Davis,
Yeah.
Maher,
Yes.
Vanucci,
Yes.
and Scriber.
yes.
Motion passes.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the next thing is a discussion about the Owl's Nest Infant Care Daycare Center.
Yeah, and I
Is anyone here?
I don't see the applicant here tonight. Thankfully, this is just I'll share the screen. But I previewed this at the last meeting and maybe folks drove by, but there's an existing commercial building on the corner of Mud Road and Danby Road that's been for lease for a while. Actually, a retail cannabis dispensary really wanted to go in there, but the owner, originally the owner was approached by a retail cannabis dispensary for that space, but then he was also approached by a preschool operator She has a current day daycare out of her home on Ridgecrest Road, Owl's Nest Preschool, and she's just growing a little bit too big for that space. So she's in the process of, she wants to lease the space. It's a commercial B zone district and a daycare center, which is different from a daycare home use, but a daycare center requires site plan approval. So because it's an existing building, they're not doing much. She's not really going to be doing much to the site. She might add a fence. Well, she has to add a fence for an outdoor area regulated by Office of Child and Family Services.
Right. OCFS, yeah.
So I suggested to the board in my memo that I think, the only, well, and it's up to you all, but because there's no changes to the building happening, and there's really very strict requirements from OCFS that she has to meet. We took a tour of the building inside with the code enforcement officer and I, about a month ago. So she used to do a lot of upgrades inside the building. But the only thing I could think about from the outside, is the pickup and drop off. Just what is that going to look like? So I asked her to provide a little bit more information about, what are the hours? What does that look like? I think in her description, she said she needed, I'll pull it up here.
But like 5 for the staff and then I forget what it said.
So the 18 to 20 children total. So 18 to 20 children total.
Right.
So you can picture that when you call us plus staff.
Yeah, and I wondered about that.
Not very much.
It's not very.
Yeah, I
much
didn't
considering
drive
How
on
many kids?
And employees, right?
And employees with,
Yeah, I didn't drive on the site, so I wasn't, and like based on the site plan, I wasn't really sure how many spots were really in there. Yeah, but there's also, I mean, her hours are a little tighter, so I'm sure like any daycare, like mornings the mad rush and in the afternoon is always kind of trickling.
Mhm.
But I don't, and also, I don't know, I don't know how trickling her morning is, if it's gonna be that, I mean, there's 18 people, I think, in my daughter's preschool, and I would say most days when I drop off, which they have a longer kind of drop off window, because they open at 7:30, there's probably like 5 cars there at a time. So, I don't know, like, she probably doesn't really need 20, but she's gonna need, like, plus staff is probably like 10.
Do you know if she's planning on having like a pull around in the front of some kind or?
Yeah, that's the other thing, is like, you wanna be careful of backing up cars with children running around.
Yeah, so you always spend a while.
Yeah,
Right.
You always park someplace, get out and walk over to this, and it's not like circle around, drop off like.
yeah, like at a high school,
Public schools.
Right.
that's even kindergarten.
yeah,
Okay, so, yeah.
If there, because she's not here and she, had a lot to say. We were out there for an hour and she just had lots to say about her business. She's very excited about it and knows a lot about, she's been in this for a long time. I wish she was here. I did give her an indication that you'd be reviewing tonight. So what I can do, I think if there's specific questions or things you want to see on a site plan, she did have, well, I found this site plan actually in the town archives. So I don't think it's necessary to have her go out and pay for a new survey of the site. But this is at least a starting place. And so essentially what I'm asking the board is that if there's specific questions you want answered for the next meeting, when ideally a public hearing would be held, then consider it. Unless, there's not enough information even at that meeting that you want to wait until the following meeting. But I could have her address, answer those before that meeting. So you were talking about pulling,
Just circulation and
Yeah.
parking spots, because it just seems like it would be very tight to get around the building and park, and then someone else could be coming out, and
okay.
circulation seems slightly tricky.
yeah.
So maybe show the circulation of, where exactly are I would imagine the drop off is going to be, this mouse has a lag, but I would imagine the drop off is going to be right in here.
Can you show where the play area is too?
Yeah, it's down, it'll be down in here, and actually,
Because I wondered if they could drop the building to get where, how the kids get to play.
you know what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull up just a Google map, it's easier than this very grainy site plan, so. we Do that, we can just take a look at it.
To see.
Yeah, I just,
the right one.
right,
Yeah, it seems like just getting information from her on the circulation, who's gonna park where and how many spots.
Yeah.
And then maybe an indication of where the playground is, like that would be sufficient just to be able to.
so this essentially, so the property, this is a fence, I think that's about where the property line is. Just not the leg, but,
Wait, this isn't the property that whole.
The whole triangle.
oh, okay, maybe
There's a power line.
yeah, okay, yeah. So her intention was to have the play area down here, be fenced out here. She would reuse the existing sign. And then there's kind of these two parking areas, so there's this longer aisle and in back, and then there is some parking out front. So, right.
On the staff park, back.
Right, and then you'd have this drop up, because the front entrance is right, I think it's right here. It used to be an old motorcycle shop. back
Is there a back way to get in if they park outside?
That's a good
Back
question.
door, so they don't have to walk all the way around.
You know, from what I remember is that the back is actually used as storage by the owner and wouldn't be used for the daycare. However, she needs, let's see, how does it go? She needs to have 2 points of entry and exit, and I think she does. Yeah, the front of the building has 2 doors.
Well,
So I'm guessing, I'm formulating some questions of
I did the drive up.
show where, you know, be clear of where staff are going to park. And that, you know, show where the drop off area is,
Yeah.
because there could be potential conflicts. It is so close to 96B that somebody could come flying off that road and.
Right.
Well, and like, if you just want to be careful of people backing out onto Muzzy also, like if she's gonna have people dropping off parking right in the front. You don't wanna create an issue with people backing into Muzzy or stopping there and then backing into a spot. I mean, it's not 96B, but it's still good traffic.
And so you said that the owner still has storage in the back, did OCFS take a look at that?
I don't,
Having the motorcycle stuff, I mean, is
know.
there any?
No, I don't think it'd be motors,
Long time
a
ago.
long time ago. So the current owner. Yeah, so the current owner, I think bought it after or from the motorcycle folks.
Right.
And then had it as a book storage. No, I don't think there's any like machinery back there.
I mean, that wouldn't be under our jurisdiction, it'd be all under them, but.
Yeah,
Right, though I would think OCFS would wanna know if there was anything that had
Any contaminant,
contaminant.
yeah.
I mean,
It's worth checking at least.
yeah, I think it should be checked, I don't know, I worked with OCFS or survived OCFS for many years.
yeah, she,
Racker, they're really, really picky, I'm surprised they didn't look at something like that.
I don't think they had been in the building yet because, I guess they are so stretched thin, OCFS, so they weren't going to take her seriously until she gets town board approval. Or not town
So
board.
they're not gonna spend time, really.
Is she?
Can you just make sure to speak into your
Oh,
mic?
I'm sorry. Is it on now?
I just turned it
Yeah,
on.
it's on.
Yeah.
There's no light.
It's on.
It's being lit off, isn't it? Well, anyway. So she doesn't own the building, she's leasing it.
Right.
But she's going to incur the expense for a fence and
I don't know.
improvements inside or?
I'm not sure the relationship of that with the
Oh,
property.
between the two of them, okay.
Yeah. I'm sure they're working out, because there might have to be building upgrades. So if I was a lessee, I might offer to pick something that has a building for others.
Mhm.
I'm a tenant currently right now of a place where
Yeah,
I might ask for certain upgrades from them, but, so I'm not sure, again, it'd be Great if she were here to ask on.
That's not ours.
Yeah,
That's not up to us, I guess. I just, right, I was curious, but.
Yeah.
I just think that, I think OCFS is very, very specific. So I would think that they would have all of the things need to be done. To me, it's partly the question of, are we gonna do this lots of times? Because we can say, okay, then they're gonna say, oh, but that's not good enough.
Well, I think, so the way site plan approval, I'll just sort of go back over the way, this use, this daycare center is allowed. It's allowed with site plan approval. So really, this is a right of the property owner to have this use, but the town has put it into a bucket that says we get to review it a little bit more closely for impacts, to the town. So if you can just think in, what are the impacts of this use to the public realm, which is
traffic.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what it is,
Right.
it's really traffic.
so
Yeah.
some of those other things that OCFS might regulate are really outside of, I think, the purview of this board. Because I think they do have a higher standard and that they have a higher standard than the building code even. So our code enforcement officer was pretty comfortable that if she met all the OCFS requirements, she was going to meet all the building code requirements.
Right.
She'll probably still have to, I think she had to upgrade, or the owner has to upgrade, exit lighting, fire extinguishers. I don't think sprinklers are needed if she has less than 50 people inside. But some of the life and safety aspects of the building needed just to be upgraded. So far I've written down, show where the staff are parking and show where the drop off is, and how it's circulated.
And with that, like the entrance, so is it that, do they enter through the front then? I know you just said back is something else, right? So then.
I'll have it confirmed,
Just
but
like,
yeah.
just the pathways where cars and.
Yeah, where they-
and then
Sort
Were
of
they-
show the traffic flow,
Yeah,
Where they come in,
with the assumption that there might be as many, I would think at least 5 to 10.
yeah,
people coming and going in the morning. I think
Yeah.
it ends up being more, I don't know, more sporadic in the afternoons,
yeah,
at least.
I just wanted to come down on the street view, so but this is from 96 here, so we're facing up Muzzy. So ideally, so just wanted to get we can't, I can't go up the street,
Yeah.
Google Maps is what, but there's one entrance, there's a couple entrances
Right.
here, but it would be,
Looks like there's a door right there.
Right.
what I think what she might want to consider is that, this is just an open lot onto the street, so conceivably, somebody could be pulling in this way and somebody could be pulling in this way. So maybe she does want to have, everybody pulling in from the east and coming around, down here, or vice versa, pulling in from this way and pulling around that way. Where are her, she said a lot of her clients are IC professors, staff.
I mean, it depends on if she is planning on having 5 parking spaces in the front, that would be
So where are the parking?
tricky, right? If you either need to do the 5 parking spaces or the turnaround, or the sort of
Full loop.
circular pulling, I think.
yeah,
And then the way it's now, if they pulled into the back, and I don't know if this matters for us to read, but the logistics of them walking around the building, or if there's a fence prohibiting them from just walking in front of the building. So maybe they could just open that fence and then they're in the yard and. So if we just see that.
Do you mean from
If she had
kind of like a
her,
door?
it just seems safer if they park in the back. It just seems like there's less, we're taking away the road traffic risk. So that they just have a small parking space, but, but the reason why they might not want to do that is they have to walk along the driveway where cars are coming in with a little toddler. So if they could somehow If there's a fence there, they can have that fence open so that they can enter the door facing 96. You know, I mean, I don't know if we're getting too into the details of where people are physically walking, but.
Well, I
do
think
wanna avoid them happening to Pleasant Road.
accessibility and safety are definitely something that, the planning board should be asking about.
Because if she's already fencing in the front of the, you know, front yard, then this seems like that would be a safe passage to get in.
So you mean if there was a door back in where
Where
the play area is and you could just bring the kids directly in there?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
Walk
Well,
directly in
it's
here.
a door right on 96, yeah.
Yeah.
well, there's no door on this side. There's,
Sure, when you do the.
oh,
You did the other picture. Look
Right on that concrete pad, there's a.
Yeah.
Also, like schlepping a toddler that far around is actually.
Yeah.
fun.
I don't know if they, you know, I would imagine if I was her, right,
They're not just ones.
I would imagine, without knowing her thinking too hard, is that people would either park back here and just walk around the building this way and enter in here, just because there's an existing,
Okay.
and it's actually a little bit wider here. I think there were a couple parking spaces under this, the awning here.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to see. 'cause
So
you
it's
can't-
not as, yeah, it looks really narrow.
It is narrow,
Yeah.
I think.
Well, if she could
I
just
mean,
tell
it's
us.
up for her, yeah,
Right,
she just needs to give
Still
us
figure
the
it out.
I
information.
think
I'm sure she
No,
could
she's
take.
saying-
Oh, yeah,
she's saying that a lot of her families are from, are IC professors and stuff. That helps in some ways. Excuse me, because people who are professors, they don't necessarily have to go either at the same time.
right, they're not
Right.
at 8 to 5:30, they have a weird,
Yeah, you're
hours.
gonna get more
yeah,
variability of who's coming, depending on when they teach and whether it's a teaching day or a non-teaching day. So that's probably helpful in terms of how many people would be there.
all right, so what I'm hearing just in general is the board wants to see, we see that there's 5 parking spaces and there's gonna be a circulation and, there's drop off happening, but be a little bit more clear about where is, show where is staff parking, show where kids are getting dropped off, where are the entrances of the building, are staff or patrons using the back, the north side of the building? Are they using the entrance off 96B that I didn't even know was there? Just, either describe that or just show that on the plan. And as I said, she probably won't go get a new survey for this. I don't think it's necessary, but
Okay, that's
she
very,
could probably
No.
just do even a screenshot of this here and just,
Yeah.
show measurements.
And I'd like to know if she's actually going to do that fence. That doesn't look like a great fence at this point.
Which one?
yeah,
The one
behind the building.
that's kind of
The
behind.
one I would like to cut into.
Yeah, I wonder if she's needing to replace that. Anyway,
Well, she already has to get fence.
she's gotta get a fence. If you look at that, looks like old wood and stuff. I don't know how. Yeah, actually.
I think she said for the OCFS, she has to be see-through fence.
Right, so it won't be that fence.
Yeah, it was like everything's at the building. She has to always be at a place where she can see
Yeah.
the kids.
Yeah.
So she has to make these modifications.
Right.
So that she can at all times,
Scan.
yeah,
You mean chain link?
Yeah,
that or because it's so close to 96, maybe it would be just something, it's like a board, like a board.
Well, does base in 96 have to be visible? Because she doesn't need to see the car, she doesn't see it, then does she have to see even a kid like escape or something?
Needs to be questions for her.
Okay, this is.
Yeah,
this is-
yeah, OCF, it sounds like they just have a very high standard.
Well, those are our schools. so,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Just, again, having done this.
Makes it
Oh,
possible.
Greg, it
I
would
know, but
actually
you can.
be helpful for me as somebody who's had to worry about this stuff. I'd just like to see a walkthrough with her finger, just do a couple of car comes in here, this person gets out with her finger with lines or something. Rather than just say this is our parking, use the entrances. you know, just simplify it even more, like, how's it really gonna work?
Okay, yep. And she, on that description that I sent out to everyone, she has her email and phone number there. She, I think would be happy to hear if people want to just ask questions too. I mean, I'm gonna corroborate some of this too, and,
But can I ask a question? Well, we can't directly ask them questions without like keeping everyone in, isn't that true? Like, cause I remember going to site visits and being instructed, like, I can't actually talk to the property owner. Like, you know, there's definitely people
Or-
opinions.
You can ask when it's public
open
record.
Meeting, well, okay, so we have to take.
Well,
Right, like, is this, we have to, can you explain it? Open.
no,
meeting, right?
when I'm on the plan, when I've been on the planning board, I've gone and met with the property owner and talked about what they're doing. I was up in Schumanburg, but the open meeting law is if there's 3 or more members present, it's considered a meeting.
Okay, so maybe I'm mixing
But,
the two.
you know, I think, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be the point person.
Okay.
Just to be safe, I'm happy to, you know, if you're thinking, you know, oh, it would be great to see this or something else too. And I'll write to her tomorrow, just kind of get this information going, so we have it, you know, well in advance. Does the,
I think what it was is that I need to take notes if I interacted with the property.
I
owner.
think so. We had a really good talk on open meetings and, you know, if somebody wanted to know, like, what did you say? That could not be confidential. You went there in your capacity.
Yes,
As a board member, talk to the property owner, that's public information.
And what ages is she doing?
she said,
Is it's infants and toddlers?
infants to
8
36.
infants
So it's the whole.
it's up to
up
36
to
months.
36
Okay.
months.
So do we, if we wanted to go take a look, should we just call you or text you or whatever, and say I wanna go down and look, or can we just go there?
We have the property owner's permission to.
Yeah, how does that work
Drive
here? Let's see, so like for the BZA, I know that when you sign the application, you're signing
Okay.
that the BZA members can go onto your property. The planning board, I don't know what the town's policy is in that, but, I would, I know when I've done it, I've just, as a board member, I'd contacted the property owner and just said, hi, I'm a board member, I'd like to just come see what you're doing. She's not the property owner, so it's someone else. But, if you do want to go see the property, I mean, I guess just, I don't know, I'm kind of, either you could just reach out to her directly, or you could just contact me and we could maybe, you know, schedule a time and, you know, people can come and see it.
Could you just, contact the property owner and just get a blanket permission for only planning board members?
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
You know, and then just email us and then, yeah, then we can go over.
Sure.
See, Ted has a hand up.
Yes, Ted.
Greg, not to interrupt, but if you're not referring to that screen share, it would be great to be able to see the planning board. Thank you.
Why can't they see that?
Oh, because I had I was sharing it, I
Oh,
was sharing something.
they can't see our little icon.
I do think it would be helpful to see lines for parking lanes scaled, just so we can see what fits.
On a like different note, not site plan related, but town related, you know, when I attended the Chamber of Commerce at a meeting here and representatives came from maybe the child care council or something, and it just really stressed like how far behind we are in meeting the needs of child care. So it's great that we can provide this for term. Not we, but you know, just great that we can.
Yeah, she said she has to turn people away and, she just doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, there's apparently a huge deficit.
There's a huge
Yeah.
deficit.
So I guess my next, all right, so there's a lot of questions that I'll be asking her. I'll be reaching out to the property owner about, just a blanket approval of planning board members just stop by. Did you want to go inside the actual space, or did you just want to go stop by and just poke around the building?
Just outside.
Okay.
Because that's what it'll
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, because the inside isn't really under the purview of the board. I mean, I think the owner would be okay. I think the owner would be okay if you wanted us to see in there. But the other thing that I want to ask the board is, assuming all these questions are answered and, she provides this information and shows scale parking and kind of circulation a little better. Is this something that the board would feel comfortable holding a public hearing next month for possible approval? Okay, great. Because I said it today, I said, you could probably do this in 2 months. It's an existing building, should be pretty straightforward. Biggest thing is going to be circulation and cars. And here we are.
Yeah.
Lots of questions around that. So, and I will make sure that I'll make sure to remind her to be at the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you. Good to have this question.
So planning report?
Sure, did I have, remember I added the ag district at the end?
Oh, okay, yes, but
Yes.
I don't have,
All right,
I have printed this already.
so
This
I
is
will, okay, so we had a,
Question about an egg district, someone who wants to stay in the egg district. I have been recommended not to stay in the egg district, right?
right. So just today, right as I sent Jody the agenda, we got an email from Crystal Buck, who was here 2 months ago. And she had presented recommended changes to ag districts. So all the red are ones that are proposed to be removed from the ag district in ag district number 2. In part of their process in Cornell Extension, they reached out to all these property owners and said, hey, we're going to remove your property from the ag district. Well, she received an email from Cynthia Lang, who lives down here. She lives on Brown Road in this blue parcel. If I zoom in, it'll just get a little bit grainy. I mean, I could certainly show it to you on Google Maps if we need, but there was a little bit of email exchange about why she wanted to just remain in the ag district. She said she's nearing retirement. She's kept bees before. She's thought about maybe doing some small scale farming in the future or hobby farming. And so, she thought that if she might want to do some sort of more commercial farming, maybe she should just stay in the ag district. So I said I'd put it on the agenda tonight. And Crystal Buck from Cornell Crop Extension is asking just for the planning board's input. So it could be just a simple resolution. As far as I'm concerned, I think that if a property owner just wishes to stay in the ag district, just to allow them to do that, and she's already in the ag district anyways, so the resolution could just be, just to recommend that this owner stays within the ag district. I'll leave that open to the board.
I think that makes sense.
I mean, I don't really know anything about that specific property, but they're already in it, so it's not like.
So we need to make.
They were good enough at one point.
I think it would be good just to kind of have it on the books, just that, somebody a board member could just move that, like the property at, well, I'm gonna give you the exact property, tax parcel number, it's 17-1-14. You can move that property remains in agricultural district number 2.
I'll make that motion.
Is it up to us or is she just asking us what we think?
It's not up to the
Motion.
planning
Well,
board.
motion to recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
So I motion that we recommend that they allow the tax parcel 17-1-14 to remain managed.
Scott Davis seconds that.
Okay. You ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Cowan,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Benucci,
Yes.
Scriber,
Yes.
motion passes.
Let me stop sharing. So planner report. Great. It's been pretty busy. There's one thing that the town was just notified of, pretty exciting, and I wish Olivia was still here to hear this, because she owns some of the only multifamily properties in town. But the town was just awarded another CDBG, a community development block grant of $153,000, $153,900 to rehabilitate multifamily properties that are from 2 to 4 units. So there's not many in the town. So we just found that award out on Friday. And I know that Olivia had helped David or provided estimates for the application. So that was exciting. That was the full amount that was requested. I let David know and he said, great. And I'm very sorry. I guess just more work to do, but it's a great thing. So we'll be going through that process of, we have to then put it out to bid. We'd hire some administrative support to help us do that. Currently right now, a consultant, Homa Development out of Portland, is helping manage the single family homeowner rehabilitation program. It is really helping out a lot of residents in town. It's amazing to see. I've been involved, there's a number of committees that I'm serving on throughout the county, and so a couple of them, there's a housing task force in the county, made up of not only just sort of planning folk, but real estate agents, developers, Tompkins County legislators, other elected officials, just looking at how to provide more housing in the county. So we're meeting every few months. There's a Safe Streets for All initiative that we just started up. We're having bi-weekly meetings with a consultant, and so I'm not actually, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure if I'm coming into this as, you know, where does Danby fit into this? It's a lot of municipalities in the county, but we have a seat at the table to provide recommendations into how to create safer streets in Danby. So I'll be updating you more on that as they get underway. It's going to be a project that goes into 2025. So we're really just in the beginning. Let's collect data. Let's collect what everybody's doing. I met with the City of Ithaca drinking water protection plan folks. They are, so part of City of Ithaca's drinking water, the watershed comes into the town of Danby. And so I met with somebody from the City of Ithaca, as well as Barton Majudas, which is a engineering consulting firm, about updating some of Danby's solar law related to stormwater. So providing suggestions to Danby's current solar regulations and how to make sure that stormwater isn't impacting water bodies in the town. So I'll be taking a look, a little bit more closer look at our regulations and what they're suggesting to see if they should be needed. And I might be presenting them to, you know, as part of the zoning amendments that we're working on in the new year. And then on that, as I previewed at last month's meeting, I'm going through some zoning amendments. Certainly not a wholesale rewrite. In fact, I made most of them. They're just sort of minor tweaks. I sent that memo to the board members so you could take a look at them. Some of the larger topics are going to be discussed either in the form of a committee or as part of the comprehensive plan update in the new year. Certainly if board members have feedback on them, you know, it's always just of interest to hear. And then as far as you all are concerned in terms of what's coming up next, besides this daycare center for next month, I just received today, a minor subdivision proposal on Updike Road at the very northern boundary of the town. It's a 10-acre lot, or it'll all be 10-acre lots. So based on my kind of first pass at the proposed plat, they're kind of meeting. It's a huge lot and they're just looking to subdivide it into two. I think they each have 20 some acres, so it should probably be a pretty straightforward review. I think they might have to add a stream buffer, some other things on the plat, but I've instructed them that they could, if they get everything into me on time, they could come to the January meeting for a preliminary review. Any questions on that? Anything that's going on? Yeah.
If you're, let's say a family of four with one blue collar wage earner, can you afford housing in Tompkins County?
It's funny you should ask because I mean, my partner and I we currently rent over in Enfield and we're pretty much priced out. We can't buy.
Can afford, you can afford to rent, can't you?
Barely.
Are you both working?
We are not. We have a 15-month-old daughter at home and my wife provides full-time childcare because we can't afford childcare. So we kind of beg, steal and borrow whatever we can get. No, we can barely afford it.
It just, the trends in the larger society. Of course, we're part of that too. People who work full-time can't afford housing. And the commoditization of housing now is taken over in the last couple of years by banks. Colleen probably knows more about it than I do, but yeah. So instead of the one thing that working class had to, gain some equity in their lifetime, they're priced out of that now and they just pay rent to the large. So I ask that because, maybe these are things we want to start at least thinking about. You're on that committee, how might it relate to policy here? And Danby and the kinds of things the planning board would be thinking about.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Scott, because that's a great.
Further, I just say my daughter has a good job in San Francisco.
There's a reason I live in Danby and I don't live in Mountain View anymore.
Oh, you're out there?
I was in Silicon Valley for like 8 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's really not right, but that's another story.
Well, wondering about the property in the school district. And what could be, now it looks like there's a sign on the side of the building and they've had all kinds of stuff, old stuff out of the building. I don't know what's going on there, but that's a pretty large property.
Well, the solution that they say, or one of the eventually from the task force is like senior housing, because people are living in larger homes.
Please use microphones.
It's more affordable to stay in a larger home, even if they're empty nesters and they don't need a larger square foot home, than to mortgage, and the mortgage rate is higher, or build, or whatever it is to downsize. And if you look, there's not anywhere for them to go, so we need senior housing. So I mean, the Hamlet's zoning, with the allowing density is a step in the right direction, if we can infill somehow and encourage. I mean, the problem is that it's there, but the property owners need to be incentivized to do it. And if they don't have the funds to develop, because building costs they're a little bit down. They went from I was hearing like 300 square foot to 250 a square foot. So you might.
It's a little bit better, yeah.
Is that little houses or?
Yeah, just like the.
It was 300.
A square foot is what I was told. Yeah, 300 to 400 depending on like basic, but I'm hearing 250.
So if you build a 1,200 square foot ranch with a garage.
You still have to buy the plot of land, and there's just so many things.
You're putting septic wells, which
Yeah.
is also.
Well, I think that's figured
That
into
is
the
figured
square
into
foot
it.
cost.
But yeah, so denser, more density, more multi-units.
Well,
more
what,
multi-
I'm curious too about what's happened with what was Dobson's property. I mean, that's a.
You know,
big
that should be a
property.
retirement village.
Yes, it
and that would be-
should. I could just roll down the hill.
I mean, I think a lot of people like don't like to see all the development in the city of Ithaca because it's like luxury, but that's fine. Get the people from, into the luxury houses, and then neighborhoods like Danby and Enfield and West Hill, that were affordable, can become affordable again. We just need more.
Yeah.
So this scares me.
But it just seems like there's a couple of property.
Yeah, there's some large parcels that are
That's,
just
that
vacant
are,
and-
yeah, just
Like what-
sitting. So,
I don't know how it works.
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of, the town has paved the way, from the zoning rewrite, allowing, denser development in the hamlet. But it is a kind of a two-way street, or, two-way dance, I guess, that a developer has to come in, or a property owner has to be willing to just invest that much into developing. And especially when there's no public water or sewer, then you have to figure out well and, water, and then septic for those. So, yeah, and kind of on that housing task force, it's senior housing, but it's also the missing middle. So it's between the single family homes and the apartment buildings, missing those, kind of what Olivia has. She has 4 units over here. So there's, missing those kind of housing units. So certainly, as the town looks into updating the comprehensive plan, there is going to be opportunity to, be talking about these things, in terms of looking at, just what the town currently allows, and if there's something else that could be done. It's certainly a right time to be talking about these.
No,
At one point, there was discussion on making the application process easier for accessory dwelling units. Did that happen, or is that? What is the process? If someone wanted to, build a second structure on their home, what's that process, or even, you could add an apartment inside the building frame, right?
No,
Without, so you would have to come to,
no, it's not even allowed. Well, it depends on what zone district. So in the majority of the town, you cannot have a second unit on your property, whether it's in your home or on your lot. So you could have 80 acres of land, and you're allowed 1 unit, until you subdivide. In the low density residential zone district, which are, well, we can certainly pull up a map, but it's in a smaller portion of the town. You could have up to 2 dwelling units, whether attached or detached. Currently, the town does not provide any pathway for an accessory dwelling unit. It's just considered another living unit. And now this is also a discussion just that's going on sort of in the planning circles, just how to allow accessory dwelling units. There is a lot of money out there right now from New York State to help homeowners that meet certain income requirements fund up to $125,000 to build accessory dwelling units. That's only if a town allows them. New York State has tried and failed to require across every municipality in New York State, require that everybody allows an accessory dwelling unit on your lot. That failed last year. So what they did is create an incentive program, it's called the +1 ADU program. You can look it up. But that's only if the town allows accessory dwelling units. And then they'd have to administer, kind of like the CDBG grants, you'd have to have somebody to administer the grants, and administer these costs.
Because the money goes to the town, it doesn't go to the applicant.
No, it would go to the applicant, but
Oh,
but the town
they
is the administrator of the
okay,
of the grant. Tiny homes are another thing. Currently, they're just one of these topics that are, or things that aren't really allowed, but they're not regulated in the town of Danby. So if it's on wheels, it might be you can maybe live there for a certain amount of time out of the year. You know, people live in trailers as they're building their house, and you're allowed to do that for up to 6 months. So tiny homes are kind of looked at in that sort of category, but again, maybe they need to be considered and carved out, because they might not have as much impact as a single family home, but it's really these are just kind of decisions or just thoughts that, you know, might be worthwhile to have, you know, at the town level, because if you think about it, if we're saying, okay, everybody gets an ADU, you're essentially saying, all right, we can double the population of the town, and you all were here, but when the zoning was going on, that, you know, I wasn't, that I think, you know, that probably, that might not be, that might be a hard sell.
Well, what about, I mean, I wasn't here when the zoning was happening either, but, I do think that there was discussion about preserving rural character. But when you take rural character preservation against people being able to afford to live here,
Yeah,
I think that you have to give up one or the other, right? Like,
or maybe have pockets or complement, you know, hopefully strike a balance.
Well, I don't know a lot about, but my understanding is that ADUs being like, they mix of sometimes they share infrastructure with the house, if the impact on the environment is usually like less, right? Is that, you probably know more.
Right, and before we take, and it seems that Joel has a question, but before we go to Joel, I just want to say that, so the town is completely empowered to define an ADU however they wish, because the way that the state defines it is, it's an accessory dwelling unit, period. There's no size requirement, there's no connection of sewer or water requirement, there's no, it's detached or attached, it's nothing. State has a very broad definition, and it can be, the town can define it, and so if it is, it needs to be hooked up to the same sewer, or it needs to be attached, or it needs to be detached, and within 100 feet of the house to make it sort of a little development envelope. It's completely up to the town, but I wonder what supervisor has to say.
Well, I'm just going to, refer back to the discussion we had in conjunction with the rezoning, which is, and this goes back to, implementing the vision and the comprehensive plan. There's definitely a trade-off between preserving the rural character and, accommodating new housing, particularly if it's going to be affordable housing. And the thrust of it was that, well, we want to preserve the outlying parts of town, but we want to focus new development in the hamlets, or new cluster housing, in order to minimize the sprawl, basically. And the new zoning basically has very little limitations inside the hamlet core and hamlet neighborhood zones on the density of the housing that can be put in there. The driver is the availability of, as Greg alluded to, water and septic. If we had sewers, we could enable much higher densities, and the higher densities in turn would reduce the cost of development. If you can have more units and less space, everything's cheaper. Less utility costs are less. The road costs are a major driver. All of that stuff is easier to do if you just cluster the houses. So unless we manage to do that, though, we're basically making it more difficult and more expensive to live in Danby. So there's a trade-off, unless we're successful at making more places available and at higher densities in the hamlets, we're driving costs up, and making Danby less affordable. So that was a concern from the get-go. It's definitely a concern ongoing. And I think we need to do what we can to address that infrastructure need. And that's, we're at a critical juncture at this point, because the study done by Hunt Engineers of possibilities of addressing the wastewater question is in hand. They recommended sewering the cores of both Danby and West Danby. The cost is pretty high. It's going to come down to a question: is there any way we can possibly snag some grant money to make that possible? And if not, what are our alternatives? And those are addressed in some measure in that same report. But this is an important discussion. It's all going to happen in the next 2 or 3 months, really. And I definitely would like to have the planning board weighing in on that whole discussion.
Oh, I have, I just happened because of something else I'm working on to have, come upon this person who they've been using the, metal storage units and turning those into houses that are much. The shipping containers. And if you look at the pictures of some of that stuff, if you get on and look at it, they're amazing.
Yeah,
What they have done with those and the cost of those compared to a house is way less. It would be interesting to look at what stuff we could do to try, to have more housing that was in between. And I think certainly for me, most of you. You look at your alternatives at the point that you might not still want your whole house, which is a pain to take care of. There isn't much.
yeah.
And, you could figure out how to get some of this land in the hamlet that's out there and be able to develop it would be really positive. So I would really be in support of us working on that. And maybe it means grants, doing something really kind of out of the ordinary in terms of how we approach it. And for me, the other issue is stuff should be built with accessibility.
I see Ted has his hand.
It's amazing. We're drowning in wealth now, this country, but you remember when we were young, you could work one wage earner, worked in a grocery store. They could buy a house for their family. So it just seems really out of whack, and maybe we can make down the road some little statement or to help some people.
It's worth looking at what we want to be able to do. And I'd be curious what the school district wants to do with that building. I mean.
They still own it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they still own it. The building.
I've heard that South Hill is like maxed out.
Oh, yeah, the school, so.
So I'd be curious to see if they,
If they decide they're gonna
Make
go back
any-
and use it again.
I mean, I highly doubt it, but
It's like not safe.
I mean, they'd have to go in and upgrade it, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
because Diddy bought it
School.
and took away the gym and a bunch of other stuff that's in there. They've been using it for storage, but I just think that's something that at least part of it is all on one level that would make sense to try to. I don't know if they have anything on the septic or what, if it's a school, there must be something there.
Just the cost of, if you had to clear a comparable acreage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's just, I go by that and go, what a waste.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ted.
Thank you. Jumping back a few statements, and correct me if I misunderstood, Greg. You pointed out that second dwellings are allowed in the low density zone. But what is not really talked about in the zoning is the fact that because you're in a low density zone, you don't have to have 10 acres. So there is the possibility of putting multiple dwellings on small lots in low density zones. And I think that's a weakness in the long run. Another weakness is that, please guys, use the microphone. Scott, you were 4 feet back from the microphone when you were talking.
I know, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I know,
realize that.
it's tough to keep in mind, but please do.
Yeah. I didn't have anything you want to hear anyway, Ted.
Oh, I want to hear everything you say, Scott. Serious.
Same when you speak.
I have a question about the task force. Are all planners on the task force, like every town planner in the county? Or did you volunteer to join that, or?
It was, yeah, I think every town certainly was invited to be a part of it. And I've seen most be involved, but either also, elected officials from the town are involved and, but I know that it's open to everyone to be involved. But it's often I found with these committees that elected officials might want to be involved and then they report down to the staff. But so far, Danby has given me lots of leeway to just be involved in these committees and just be right there at the table, which is great. Yeah.
So
First I hear of it.
Oh, sorry.
one of my thoughts about mixed housing is you brought up two things. Well, a couple things we've talked about is the problem of not having enough childcare and childcare providers. So I envision somewhere where people that are older, and not everybody would want to do this, but you would be able to potentially provide childcare if we had places where you had people that were older and young families together. Not to mention that those, as you get older, that's a great thing to have. So.
I love this vision. We're just putting it out there.
We just need money. Who's gonna bring the money?
I mean, I'm still working with kids in early intervention because my children have chosen to, I don't have grandchildren. And I would love to be able to walk a couple houses down and provide some basic child care for someone. And
You now said that on record.
Anyway, I'm just saying, I think we need to think out of the box in terms of how things are now.
Yeah.
And the childcare is an enormous issue. I go to daycares and stuff and people, there's an enormous waiting list for childcare.
Which is also because you can't have a single person working and afford to live anywhere. Because then you have both parents working and the kid has to go to daycare.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Catherine?
Just a quick comment. Can you hear me first of all?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Almost everything that you were talking about is a really good idea, except it all ends up being, most of what it sounded like would turn out to be rentals instead of home ownership. So the issue then is to figure out, I think what Scott brought up was home ownership, and it's quickly diverged to all kinds of ways you could have a second place, and that means you could rent it. So that's the thought. That's all.
Yeah.
And I was talking, I think I was thinking more of mixed age communities.
Well, I'm just thinking that just down the road, White Hawk Eco Village is a very good example of just that. That there's a million kids there, and there's all different age ranges, mostly young families, but there are some older retired, family that lives there, and that kind of development is something that works, and it's generally very affordable, and kids are way off the road, and when I go there, they're just kind of feral, running around everywhere, and someone's always having, it's like that eyes on the street mentality, that somebody's always sort of watching the kids.
I just need somebody to dump a load of money.
Yes.
I would be curious to see how quickly it would change if we had water infrastructure. Because that is a big hang up. And I haven't talked to developers about Danby versus Ithaca, but you see development happening in Lansing, and you see there's some minor stuff going on in Trumansburg, and I don't know how many of those are on public water versus sewer or septic and wells, but I'm sure that's a big issue.
It's the main driver for development, which is often, on the flip side, which is often why rural communities advocate against it, because it does entice more development. Lansing, there's a new water line going up East Shore Drive, and that was, from what I understand, mostly, if not all, paid for by a private entity, because
Is that the big bucks in Danby?
Wow.
they see the opportunity right there along the shore. They're going up 34.
And our original house was on East Shore Drive, and we had public water. But, it always amazed me, we had our own sewer. Actually, we were up on the hill, where do you think it went? Like, but they had put in sewer too, along there, pretty short run, so yeah.
Greg, didn't they put a water line all the way up into Lansing about 10, 15 years ago? From Bolton, are you talking
From it to
from Bolton going down towards, is that
Yeah.
East Shore Drive?
yeah.
Oh, down that
So
way.
they just built it out.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they've been
Okay.
really working on it for months, cause I go
Oh,
up there and see
okay.
kids.
Yeah, because years ago, yeah, they ran the water all the way up.
Anyway,
Well, can we
Good
quote
discussion.
bonds?
you gotta,
Pay for, you know, is that what municipalities do?
they do, and that's, I mean, you could certainly talk to the town board about that. It's pretty political.
No, we're talking about that.
Somebody want a bond? Who wants a bond? Yeah.
The other thing, just because it's what I've done, it's my whole career, there are enormous lists in this county, and not just this county, of children with needs who have developmental issues, under 3. There's, last I knew, there were over 40 kids who needed speech, and there's no speech therapists available. There's, last I knew, 18 to 20 kids that need physical therapy, and there aren't providers and occupational therapy. It's really, to me, it's just something that shouldn't be happening, because the difference between being able to work with those kids when they're little, under 3, in terms of eventually how they are physically and mentally and everything else, versus waiting until kids, like when I first started working, they didn't refer kids who had cerebral palsy until they were 2 or older, and then you're working to change habits that are not good.
I'm surprised they haven't leveraged IC more with that. I don't know, like, I don't really know what their system is, but I'm surprised they haven't leveraged the programs that I see. Like, all the babysitters I've had in the last 3 years have been speech OT or PT from IC. So clearly the kids they're willing, the students are willing to work with kids.
Yeah, and I've run into some of the students in the daycares I go to.
Yeah.
I go to a daycare.
Yeah.
That they're working there part-time, because they changed those programs to doctoral level programs. And so some of the students come in having taken AP courses in the first couple of years. They need to go to school full time,
Yeah.
but they have to be here. And so, yeah, there's a lot community-wise, I feel like we can do to try to tap that resource. But it's a shame if that stuff is where it's at. When I keep saying I'm going to do less. but
There's more demand.
There's more, yeah. Anyway.
Thank you about the grant.
Yeah,
Something.
yeah. Well, it's certainly an ongoing discussion. I appreciate having this, just discussing this with you all, just, as residents and folks on the planning board, because this is a real issue just nationwide, and, but how can we tackle it at our local level, where, I gave you sort of my own personal experience with it, that
Case in point.
we're kind of very, very limited.
Okay, will we adjourn?
Make a motion, or?
I declare we're adjourned.
Everyone joining online. Have yourself a good night.
Yes.